Hey guys, yeah, you see the title on the screen. Yes, we are live, as live can get. Basically, yes, we are live. As I take care of something real quickly here. But yes, we are live to celebrate and talk about 10 years of Friendship is Magic. My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, which debuted 10 years today on the hub, now known as Discovery Family. But what's really interesting, though, when you think about it, guys, we should be actually saying that what I'm trying to get at is we should actually be saying that October 1st, 9 days ago, was the 12th anniversary of Friendship is Magic. Yeah, the 12th anniversary, because if you go to social media, go to Twitter, and I retweeted this. Lauren Faust, to celebrate 10 years of Friendship is Magic, posted something. Basically, it was like a little promo poster, and it had most of the characters as we know them, except for Twilight. Twilight had sort of instead of like the cutie mark she's known for, the star and all that. Instead, she had like a moon and a star. She was kind of like, I guess, the first conceived option for Luna or something, but she had the Luna's cutie mark in a sense instead. And the date on this promo poster was October 1st, 2008. So yeah, basically over 12 years ago, the idea for Friendship is Magic was conceived, and then about 11 years ago, the first animation test under the working title My Little Pony Adventures was shown. And you can actually find that animation test here on YouTube and various other social media and video outlets, if you will. You could find that. So, yeah. Even though officially it's the 10th anniversary as to when the show debuted, it's actually there's actually a couple more anniversaries you could put on top of that. I mean, like I said, this month also marks the 12-year anniversary since the idea was conceived. And then this year, if not this month, maybe, I don't know, marks 11 years since the first animation of the characters were brought to fruition, were brought to life, if you will. And honestly, that's a lot of celebration right there, if you will. But yeah, just go on Twitter, look up Lauren Faust, and if you're not already following her, and you'll see that, again, what I mentioned, like I said, what I mentioned is she basically tweeted out a thing that says, let me see if I can find it here, because I know I just uploaded it, I think. Yeah, here it is. Lauren Faust uploaded this about 7 hours ago. It says, My Little Pony, a treatment for an animated television series by Lauren Faust. And it has all the characters as you know them. There are a few exceptions. Pinkie Pie is a Pegasus, and Fluttershy is not. So it looks like when we get to G5, if the rumors about certain characters, coming back or being redesigned for the new generation, if there's any truth to that, basically then we will get a Pinkie Pie swap with excuse me. And I don't worry, I don't have the virus or anything, just got a little thing in my throat. But we will have a Pinkie Pie swap of Pegasine with Fluttershy and Twilight, because Twilight will be, I guess, the new Earth Pony instead of Pinkie, and Fluttershy will be the new Unicorn instead of Twilight, and there you go. Yeah, but like I said, the yeah, but like I said, we got a lot of anniversaries this month, 2 anniversaries, if not 3 anniversaries this year. When it comes to friendship is magic, because of the fact that, like I said, it was 12 years ago this month, back on October 1st, when the idea was first conceived. And then basically 10 years ago, the show became a reality. And then about 11 years ago, the first animation test to make that show a reality was shown. So, yeah, just to me, quite a journey, in my opinion, when you think about it, quite a journey for the show to go through to end up becoming one of the pop culture phenomenons in recent memory, especially from an animation perspective. Now, for me, as I've mentioned many times before, when the show first came out, I first heard about it coming out and it debuted. From what I have learned, from what I've been able to discover from any of the well-renowned uh, Bronies and Pegasisters out there, the analysis, out there, just like them, it took me time to really get into the show. I mean, some of them, it took up to 2000. It barely took a season. It took a season and a half, maybe two, before they started to give the show a chance. Others, it took a while. Others, it took like a couple of years, before they gave it a chance. And for some, it took up until the last seasons, to the final couple of seasons, for them to give it a chance and kind of see why this show had been on for so long and why a lot of people, mostly adults, were really into it. And by seeing this, and again, by seeing this, I should say, manifest for many years, not only did some of the fans, some newer fans start getting into it in the last few seasons, but once they found out that, hey, you could also binge the earlier seasons on Netflix and all that, that's exactly what they did. And that's why if you go up to somebody that has only been into the fandom or into the show for just the last few years, the last few seasons, that's why, they're able to kind of give you the rundown of what the show is, who the characters are, and, what continuity is and what the continuity is overall, because they would go back and binge the entire show before, like, say, the seasons they got officially into the show happened. So if they got into the show around season 7, all they had to do was binge episodes from season 1 to 6, and that was it. So yeah, basically this show has that kind of an impact to where it doesn't matter where you jump in, so to speak, that once you jump in, you're gonna want to know more about it. You're gonna want to know more about the characters, more about the background, exactly why this is all, why it became such a big deal in the eyes of a lot of fans. You're gonna want to know all that, and for me, like I said, um, I like a lot of people, like let's say Silver Quill, for example, I wasn't too initially on board with it. It just took me time. It took me a lot of time, actually, to really get behind it until about a couple years ago when I sat in this very chair and through various Facebook MLP group pages and even here on YouTube acknowledged that I had become a Brony. I had become a fan. And this was like, what, 5 years, 4 years, 4.5 years after I came on here, when I still lived in Patterson, when me and my mom still lived in Patterson. It was what, like 4 years, 4.5 years after I did another video saying I'm not a Brony, which you could still find here on my channel. But in that video I did, what is it now, 8 years ago? I basically came out and said, look, I'm not a Brony, but I do respect, what they're doing with the show, and how far the show has come at that time. Because, you know, like a lot of people, I figured, yeah, the show ain't gonna, you know, last but a couple of seasons, you know, because the original plan, from what I understand from Lauren Faust, was Twilight is to basically reach the goal of making Twilight a princess, and that's it, nothing else. There was no plan for her to succeed. So, well, there was a plan for her to succeed Celestia, but the main goal for Lauren Faust when she came up with the idea was to get Twilight to be a princess, and that was it. And then I guess leave the rest to the imagination, or maybe plan out several specials that would basically for bring closure to the original story plans that she had. Now I could be wrong. But you know, like I said, that was Lauren Faust's original plan, just for it to go a couple of seasons. I mean, if you look at the various documentaries from the making of the 2017 movie to A Decade of Pony, which came out last year, basically even the people behind the series, the creative staff, all kind of felt the same way, that, you know, they believed the show was not going to last but maybe a few seasons, and then that was it. And the reason they, along with some fans before those fans got into the show themselves, but the reason the creative staff themselves, along with several other fans that, like I said, later on got into the fandom, got into the show itself, believed that the show may not last too long, is it was kind of the norm when it came to My Little Pony. I mean, you look at G3, and G3 was just sporadical. It just was like, you know, all you had was like made for television, made for, you know, direct. All you had was like direct to VHS, direct to DVD, videos, movies, direct to television specials, stuff like that. That was just all over the place, and they had no real connection to each other. And they didn't last that long. It was barely, I think, what did they get out of it? Like 2-3 movies and a couple of specials, and what was that, like 6 altogether, 6 or 7, and that was it. And then they tried to go down the route of turning the characters into babies, and that blew up in their face. You know, that blew up in their face. But another indication as to why a lot of folks, not just the fans that later on got into the show, but even the creative staff, felt that the series may not last long, was, you know, the other previous versions of the show, or of the franchise, that came before even G3, you know, My Little Pony Tales and the original G1 series. They didn't last too long. You know, they didn't last very long when it came to being on the air. They only lasted a season or so, or a season and a half when it came to G1, and that was it. The show was done. It was, you know, time to move on, you know, and, you know, just let My Little Pony continue in reruns. But, you know, they didn't do that. You know, they didn't do that. Instead, like I said, you know, they didn't do that. You know, instead, okay, okay. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. I was typing something there. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay. There you go. But like I said, instead, what was I saying? Oh, yeah. The reason, again, getting back to us, I lost my train of thought there. I do apologize. It's 7:47 at night, so, you know, what are you gonna do? But like I said, the reason they believed that is because that was kind of the norm at the time when it came to a show like My Little Pony, or any interpretation of My Little Pony. And it would just be a season or so, and that's it. And then you just let it go off in reruns and go from there. But when it came to Generation 4, that wasn't the case. I mean, yes, that was the belief. Like, okay, we'll probably do a season or 2 or 3, and that's it. Go on, whatever, and then kind of go off on its own. I'll basically end it and let it go off onto reruns, and go from there, and focus on the next installment of MLP. But apparently, they had no clue, honestly, that the fandom was going to become what it was. They had no idea at that time that the fandom was going to take off and become the phenomenon that it did. So, that's why when, we ended up basically, what was it? Sorry about that. I just almost messed up something there. I do apologize. But, again, obviously that was what they were planning for, just to go a couple of seasons, get to that point of, reach the goal of making Twilight a princess and then go from there. They had no idea that the fandom was going to become what it was. That's what I was trying to get at. They had no idea the fandom was going to, become what it was. They had no idea that that part of that fandom, if not a major part of that fandom, was going to consist of adults, of men and women that grew up in the 80s, grew up in the 70s, grew up in the 90s, and were like, hey, this version of MLP, it appeals to us. We like it. And I think the main reason a lot of people got behind it was the fact that you had this creative staff trying to follow through on what Lauren Faust wanted. Even though Lauren Faust left after the second season, they were still trying to follow through on what she wanted. And that's make the show, not just for little girls, if you will, but to make the show for everybody, for the entire family. Again, though, I just don't think they expected the fandom they were going to get out of it, because there was some moments, even in the earlier seasons, there were some moments and references and whatever that would go over the head of the original intended audience, and only the adults, the grown-ups, would catch that reference or that moment. So, yeah, it was like, hold on, be right back. Sorry, guys, I was just checking something. But anyway, like I said, I don't think they had any clue, in my opinion. They didn't have any clue that the fandom was going to become what it was. The fandom was going to be, the adults, basically. The adults themselves were going to be like the main focal point of the fandom, and not the original intended audience that they had in mind, which were the kids. The kids, like I said, were the original intended audience. And like I said, they had no idea that the grown-ups were going to overshadow them. Because like I said, even in the earlier seasons, like in the first couple of seasons, there were a lot of moments that went over the heads of the young kids, but not over the heads of the adults. And I think that's why the adults were attracted to it, the way they were. They were attracted to it in a way that I think even surprised the creative, the overall creative staff behind the show. It surprised them. They were like, I think even themselves, even they themselves said they were caught off guard. Even they themselves said they were caught off guard. And the biggest example of you finding out that they were caught off guard, I think, was Ashley Ball. I think it was Ashley Ball and Andrea Lindgren. There were like a couple of documentaries that came out because of what was going on. And one of them was focusing on, I think it was Ashley, I believe. And she even said that she was surprised by the adult fandom that she encountered at some of the conventions. Like when she was first invited to one of the first Brony conventions in the Northeast, she was caught off guard by the amount of adult fans that were happy to see her. Happy to see the voice of Applejack and Rainbow Dash. You know, be there. They were kind of like, wait a minute, whoa. Um, I mean, not them, but she was kind of like caught off guard by the fact that, the voice of Applejack was, surprised by the welcoming, by the, what's the word I'm looking for, by the acceptance of this majority crowd of adult males and females. It's like she couldn't believe it. It's like, she couldn't believe it at first. It's like, because think about it. Put yourself in her shoes. Put yourself in Andrea Lindgren, and well, both of those shoes. Put yourself in the shoes of Ashley Ball, Andrea Lindgren, and all the voice actresses and actors. And you got to think to yourself, wait a minute. I'm at a convention that was created because of this show, and the main people I'm talking to are adult males and females that like the show, like the characters. You got to be thinking to yourself, what is going on here? Again, you got to be thinking to yourself, what is going on? This is like not normal, if you will. And that's basically the truth. It's not, it's not really normal when you think about it, because, it's because, again, if somebody would have told, think about it. Put yourself in the shoes of the creative staff. Put yourself in the shoes of the creative staff as the creationists. Put yourself in the shoes of Lauren Faust. If somebody would have told Lauren Faust that what she was about to create would attract an enormous amount of adult fans to the show, and basically by attracting these adult fans, cause such a uprising in popularity for a show originally meant for little kids, little girls, you would think something was wrong too. But apparently there was something there. There was something there with this show, that when Lauren Faust came up with the idea to go the direction she did, and then basically those that came after her, like Megan McCarthy, Nicole Dubuque, Josh Haber, Jim Miller, what have you, decided to take the show, in the same direction, but through different paths going towards that direction. If you would have said something to her and even them at the time the show was being conceived, she and they would have not believed you. They would have been like, nah, the adults won't, no, there won't be no adult fans. And the show's only going to probably last a few seasons, and that's it. And once it's done, it's done. But again, that wasn't the case. That was not the case, because, the show, how do I put this? The show became something that even I, as a fan, an eventual fan, could not believe. Because like I said, going back to that video I did in 2012, that's when the show started to really pick up steam a little bit and become something that even I couldn't explain, but even I still tried to distance myself a little bit from, by saying, look, I'm not a brony, but I do respect, what they're doing with the show, or what the show and the people behind it are trying to do. So, I respected that. I respected that. But over time, it just started to win me over. I started hearing more about people about my age. Like I told my mom this morning, she was curious because she saw two of my figurines my Guardians of Harmony figurines on my on top of my record record player, my vinyl player, I should say. It's one of those costly, one of those vinyl players it's one of the carry-on vinyl players that you can carry anywhere you want. But she asked me basically, what kind of people, she just kind of asked me, what other kind of people are into this. And I told her, honestly, I said, first of all, I told her it's the 10th anniversary. I told her it was 10 years. And then again, she asked me, well, what kind of people are into this? And I told her there were people of my age, a bit younger, a little older, that were into the show. And that's still, even though she knew about it in a sense, this is the truth. She knew about the show because of the parents, because of the kids she works with and the parents that she deals with said kids at her job. But she didn't know the full context, I think, of the fact of, this show, it's got a bigger fan base and following than you can imagine, and it's not primarily kids. So it kind of took her off. It kind of took her by surprise. It's even almost 10 years after the show debuted. Yeah, it took her by surprise. And you know what's funny? She's not the only one. I remember watching one of Josh Scorcher, aka Firebrand's videos he did. I think it was a video where he talked about the 15 best best and worst songs in MLP. And when he got to the last one, which was the number one best song in the series from his perspective, which is called "You're in My Heart Like a Catchy Song," he said that he would not be surprised that he would not be surprised. What I'm trying to say is he would not be surprised, or he wasn't surprised that people would add that song to the wedding list or to the wedding playlist. Not even knowing that it's from My Little Pony, because it's that good. He even acknowledged that those that are, closet ponies, closet bronies and Pegasisters that were getting married and adding this song to the wedding playlist. He acknowledged that the reason they were still closet bronies and Pegasisters is because even to this day, if they go out and they tell their family and friends, mostly their family, I'm a fan of that show that's been on for 10 years, I don't know if they I don't know if they kind of have what's the one I'm processed. That's the one I'm looking processed. How their family may react to that, because again, you look at the fact that you look at the fact that there are still people out there that troll a lot of fans, like myself, like Silver Quill, like Sega Sister, like Voice of Reason, Thespio, and all of them, Lightning Bliss, Keyframe. They troll us because they still don't get it. To them, it's just weird that people like me, Silver Quill, Josh Scorcher, Firebrand, if you will, Lightning Bliss, Keyframe, Golden Fox, you name it, Thespio, to them it's still kind of weird and creepy and not right for grown men and women to like a show meant originally for little girls. But here's the thing. The main thing that I believe attracted a lot of us to the show and kind of won us over time wasn't just the characters and the predicaments and the interactions they would have, or the predicaments they get themselves into in the interactions they would have with each other. But it was also the one thing that a lot of people look at today, and that is acceptance through diversity. Because one of the things they've touched upon in the series, believe it or not, several times, was how all three pony races came together in harmony. And they played upon that, I think, in the first or second season with a Heartswarming Eve / Christmas Carol, or Christmas, inspired play that they did. And then they touched upon it again in the final season, in the finale. And it's like, when you look at that, it's like, whoa, they're really going there. I mean, heck, they even went there in season 8. Season 8 had a character called Naysay come in, who was clearly, as they have a term for it, speciesist towards species that were not ponies, especially with the idea that Twilight was putting this school together, the School of Friendship, that wasn't just going to educate and house ponies of all kinds, but also other creatures. And when you look at that, you look at the first 2 episodes, the first 2-parter of that season, and then you look at the finale as part of that, and you're like, dang, they're really going there with a character, with this kind of a character. It really surprised people. It really surprised people when they went there. And hello, everybody that's in the live chat right now. But like I said, it really, really surprised people that they went there. And there were a lot of other things that they did too that, again, there were like references and moments that would go over the heads of young kids. They may find funny, but it will go over them. Like in the second part of the season 7 finale, Shadow Play, when Pinky is mentioning what all the characters, what all the main 6 represent from an element of harmony perspective, there's one moment where when she's talking about, okay, laughter, what is it? Laughter, kindness, honesty. And when she gets to honesty, what does she do? She grabs Applejack's butt, jams her side of her face into Applejack's butt. And everybody that watched that episode, everybody that's talked about this moment, from Bronies React to Analysis Bronies React, all were like, whoa, hey, whoa, how'd they get away with this? It really like surprised them that moment, got through. But again, it shows you that season 7 and even before that, in other seasons, the creative staff was starting to acknowledge, okay, our fan base is no longer just the young kids anymore. It's also the adults. Because even 2 seasons prior, you had the 100th episode, which was Slice of Life, and it focused on the background of secondary characters. And it focused in a way that there was a lot of moments and references, again, that would go over the young kids' heads, but not over the adults. Like they had pony characterized versions of the main trio of characters from The Big Lebowski, an R-rated film, if you will. So basically over time, the creative staff would start noticing that the fans were more adult than they were kids. And that just shows you the evolution of a show that's come as far as it did. But again, getting back to, like I said, why people got into the show, and I think this was one of the things that won over the creative staff, is they liked the idea of the diversity of characters and the fact that it was touched upon several times in the series. And I mean, you even have celebrities and athletes acknowledging the phenomenon that was friendship is magic. And that's very surprising. That's very surprising, if you will. But for me, again, if you would have told me back in 2010, and even back when I did that I'm Not a Brony video back in 2012, that I was going to reverse course several years later, I would have not believed you myself. And if you would have told someone like Silver Quill or Dr. Wolf or Golden Fox that, hey, you're going to be fans of a show originally meant for little girls, they wouldn't have believed you either. But lo and behold, here you are. Here you go. It's just one of those situations where, like I said, just because you think you're not going to enjoy something at first because of the fact that it's originally meant for a younger audience, doesn't mean you're not going to go and like it. And basically the rest is history when you think about it. The rest is history when you think about it, because here we are 10 years later and people still enjoy My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. They really do. I mean, just recently, what was that? 4 days ago, people celebrated the 3rd anniversary of the movie. A movie that when the show first began, no one thought we were going to probably end up getting. And yet, after the show, after the fact that the show kind of cemented itself into being something that no one ever saw coming and becoming the phenomenon that it did, that's when news got out that a movie was going to happen after all. But no one had any idea that the movie was going to warrant a PG rating. Now, of course, PG nowadays is just the newer equivalent of G, but still PG, having a PG rating means it's going to be a little bit more edgier and a little bit more mature at times than the regular show. So, there you go. Now, like I said, as for me, when it came to me becoming a fan, like I said earlier, it took me time. It's like over time, over the years, it started to kind of gain my interest even more when I started to find out that there were more fans than me. There were more adult fans about my age that were into it. And I was thinking, what is so appealing about it? So I remember thinking, oh, they had a Halloween episode, but then noticing that in the show, they don't refer to the holidays like we do. Instead of Halloween, they call it Nightmare Night. Instead of Christmas, they call it Heartswarming Eve. So it's like, and Rental Wrap Up, that's considered like Easter or New Year's Day or something. But again, nobody. But again, for me, I had no idea that sooner or later I was going to become a big fan. But when I watched Lunar Eclipse and I started seeing how other people reacted to it, mostly with the main character focused on, and that was Luna, I started to kind of get more invested. I started to get more interested in the show. And to the point that when I started seeing grown people like me collecting things like Funko Pops and, plushes and figures, it's like, okay, there has to be something to this. If even grown men like myself, even if grown men like myself are going out there and buying stuff that are MLP related. I mean, we got a guy that's older than me called Dusty Cat in the fandom, who lives in the Bay Area, I believe. And he's a Luna fan. And when they were doing a reaction video to the finale of the series, he was wearing a Luna Pops shirt. Yeah, Luna Pops, a play on Pops, Kellogg's Pops cereal. That's what they were playing. That's basically what he was wearing. And it's like, this guy's older than me, and yet he's wearing a Luna shirt, a Luna Pops shirt, if you will. And he's known, basically, if you watch the Bronies documentary they did, known as the manliest Brony around. Because he also, besides being a fan of MLP, he works on motorcycles. He works on crafting guitars, makeshift guitars and stuff. And it's like, okay, if guys like me, if guys that are older than me, if not around my age range, can enjoy My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, a show meant for little girls, maybe there's something to it. And I can remember, in fact, I have it. It's on DeviantArt because I have a copyright of the year that you upload something. I remember basically several years ago, one of the first MLP merchandise that I got was this, a mini Funko Pop of Luna. She was the first one I got, and then of course the mini version of Celestia came next, and the rest is history. But the reason I got her is because, like I said, I started noticing people were buying up this kind of stuff, and I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. I'm noticing that you have, like I said, I'm noticing you have grown adult men and even women buying this stuff, but now you're having a company like, let's say, Funko, that only brings out collectibles, creates things out for collectible reasons, basically creates stuff for collectible reasons, not play at times, if not most times. And now they're working on bringing out pony stuff. To me, that started to speak volumes. Like, wait a minute, they're bringing out Funko pony figures like this, and these are meant to be displayed, not played with. And it's like, again, I was starting to notice this and see these kind of things, and that's how it started to slowly win me over. It started to slowly win me over time. Like I said, it started to slowly win me over time. And as a matter of fact, let me see if it's still up here somewhere. Right there, when my finger's pointing, that was my first rarity figure ever. And then I have a rarity plush that's in the closet. They had a multicolored, stringy hair that they would sell. That was the first plush I got. And it just started to snowball, from there. And I started to get more invested, started to get more interested in it, and learning. And again, having a character like Luna, get some focus at times throughout the series. It was like, I don't know what it was. I guess maybe it was also the fan art depiction of her. But Luna was like one of those characters that really resonated with me as a character I can enjoy, I could like, because even though she was Celestia's sister, or younger sister, she was more relatable. She was like, ooh, I like, there's something about this girl, there's something about this character that I just like. I can't figure it out, but I think it's because she's dark and a little gothy at times, but she is relatable. The other thing that got me into being a fan as well is the one thing that I've always talked about a lot, I've always supported, was the Spike and Rarity relationship. Because when I started hearing and then noticing that Rarity had this admirer in Spike who was just gaga over her, again, that spoke volumes, not just to me, but to a lot of people, because how many of us end up having a crush on essentially the girl or the guy next door, and basically to the point that we're willing to do whatever it takes to be with them, to spend time with them, to get to know them better, to hopefully be the one that's spends the rest of their lives with them. And to me, that's what got me attracted to the relationship of Spike and Rarity, because I could see that. I could see that essentially developing in the series. And I enjoyed, and I got behind that. Because because when you look at the show, besides background characters, you didn't really have any romance occurring when it came to the main characters. You didn't have no romance whatsoever, and this was the closest thing we got to that. This was the closest thing we got to that. Like I said, this was the closest we got to that as far as like the main cast goes. And then from then on in, we started to get better. And then as the seasons went on, we got better stories. The characters were developing more. And I think what really got my attention, and a lot of other people's attention, was the whole Twilight becoming an alicorn deal. It's like this just, I don't know what it was, but when this hit, it kind of slightly made news. It wasn't like a big deal to where it was like front page news or the first news story reported on the news at 10 or anything like that. But it was mentioned. It was mentioned and acknowledged that the fans were not thrilled with this. It was getting a mixed reaction. It was getting a mixed reaction is what it was getting. But yeah, stuff like that really got me invested, thinking, okay, so there's got to be something about this overall, to the point that you have fans being outraged over a design change or a character evolving or developing. Let's look into it even more so. And then, like I said, as the seasons went on, the show got better, and the stories in the show got better. That's when I became more invested to the point that I was like, you know what? I started to question myself as well on with the articles with the essays or journals on DeviantArt and videos here on YouTube of asking, am I becoming a brony? And I should have known when I start asking myself and asking people out there, hey, am I becoming a brony because of this or that? That's when you what's the word I'm looking for? That's when in a sense, you're becoming a fan, whether you want to admit it or not. And like I said earlier, I ended up admitting that I became a fan several years, like 4.5 years after I did that one video, and the rest is history. I mean, the fact that I became a fan, it shows you the effect a show like this has, because there's a lot of shows that when they first started, a lot of people would not be into, but over time it would win them over. And this is one of those shows that did the same to me and many others. I mean, those before me and those even after me got won over by the fact that people were talking very highly about this. Like, you have to check this show out. You have to see it. And, the rest is history. And I think I knew I'd become a fan in a big, huge way when on opening day, I took the start bus. That's what they're called here, the start bus, bound for Turlock, known as 45 East. And I got up early in the morning after my mom went to work, cleaned myself up, made sure my dog went to the restroom, then got something to eat, then got on that bus, if you will, and went to Turlock to go see the movie on the big screen on opening day. And you know what? I'm not the only one that went to go see it on opening day or even the night before, because it basically made back, I guess you could say 3 to 10 times its original budget, that it was made on. And that's saying something. That's saying something when you do that. And that's saying something for a franchise and for a show, that was originally conceived in the eyes of many for just little girls, to sell toys to little girls and primarily be aimed at little girls and little kids. And yes, there were various times that the creative staff, even through the show itself, tried to remind us that this was meant for little kids. A good example of that was the season 7 episode Fame and Misfortune. Even though M.A. Larson had wrote the script and we saw exactly what he wrote, he had a different direction for it to go in, from a character perspective and all that. But no, Hasbro's like the creative staff behind the show, like I think it was Megan McCarthy at that time, along with some other people, said no. The script's good. We're going to keep it, but we're going to go in a different direction than what you have planned. And the direction they went in was basically trying to give the message at the end of, yeah, we appreciate you adults enjoying the show, but remember, it's for kids, and kids don't care about consistency to continuity. They don't care about, this continuity for this or continuity for that. All they care about is the characters they see on the screens and them pointing to the parents of, I want to get that toy. I want to get that toy. I want to get that toy. And this did not sit well with a lot of fans. I mean, it got a mixed reaction, and some thought it was good, while others thought it was okay, but it basically done in a way that, basically done in a way that, well, it just rubbed some people the wrong way, even though some would agree that, oh, it's good or it's okay. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Josh Scorcher, aka Firebrand, did a review on Fame and Misfortune, and hold on for a sec. Hello? Yeah. Okay. No, somebody parked past the mailbox and that's it. I think that's right. No, it's just, I think it's family. That's all it is. No, it's not, Mom. It's not that car. No. It's a regular car, Mom. I don't know. It's not a Chevy, Mom. Yeah. No, it's a great car. Yeah. No. I saw him, Mom. I went out there. No, I didn't see one. No. Sorry about that, guys. My mom was just calling me, telling me she's on her way back from taking care of something. But anyway, what was I? Oh, yeah. Like I said, some people were mixed about Fame and Misfortune, basically, because, like I said, even though some people thought it was good and some thought it was okay, they all kind of agreed that there were moments at times where it kind of rubbed them the wrong way. As I was saying, Josh Scorcher, aka Firebrand, did a review on this, where basically he just, in his opinion, pointed out the obvious, that the main message that they were trying to send across was, hey, we appreciate you guys enjoying the show, but remember, it's for little kids, and little kids don't care about continuity or consistency to continuity or this or that. All they care about is, oh, I want that pony, or I want that pony toy, I want that pony toy, and that's it. So, yeah, it's, it's one of those. So yeah, basically, um, like I said, there are moments in this show that really would get your attention and get you invested in everything to maybe check it out, maybe for the first time. And like I said, when it came to the Alicorn situation with Twilight, that's what really got me invested, got me interested. Like, okay, something's up here, something's going on here. So I decided to check it out. And of course, like I said, over time, I started to collect a lot of merchandise and figures and stuff that, again, if you would have told me about if you would have told me back in 2010 I was going to become a fan of this show, or if you would have told me back in 2012 when I did that video I was going to become a fan and a brony, I wouldn't have believed you. And again, the same goes for a lot of people that I just mentioned, because it took them like a few years into the show to become fans, and then later become maybe bronies and start really investing themselves into it. I mean, Silver Quill, he got invested into the show, but didn't really start doing more videos on it until about, what was it, 3 years later, like after the whole Alicorn thing. So I think, yeah, that's what it was. When Twilight became an Alicorn, that's when he decided to start doing videos on it and giving his own opinion. But again, you could tell that as the seasons, even during the early to mid seasons and later seasons, like I said, you could tell that the creative staff was acknowledging that the fan base was that the fan base was not basically the original target fan base that they thought they were going to have, and that it was a fan base aimed more at adults. I mean, not aimed at adults, but comprised of adults, I should say. Even though they still tried to sell toys to kids, still it was like the realization was there, to the point that Hasbro started to realize, okay, we still got to sell some pony toys to kids, but we also need to satisfy these adult fans as well. How can we do that? And then that's when Funko, like I said, came into play, not just with the mini Funko Pops, but when they started to come into play with pop figures like this. And that's what really, to me, again, sent the message of this was a big thing. This had become such a big thing. That this has become such a big phenomenon. I mean, Josh Scorcher even said that it became a phenomenon the moment the second season finale hit. And mostly the song in part 2 of the second season finale, the Day Araya or something like that. And he said that as soon as this song hit in the second part of season 2's finale, Canterlot Wedding, that's when everybody knew the show was going to be big. Like, it was going to be huge. They just didn't know how big or huge it was going to be till later on. And like I said, you started seeing that be reflected not just in the show, acknowledging that it had become this massive phenomenon, and the main reason for that was the adult fans, but also the fact that you started noticing that in the merchandise that was being sold. Again, for example, we started seeing things like this. Like, this is the Guardians of Harmony figure of Celestia. When you started seeing stuff like this come out, you're like, wait a minute, that's not a toy. Even though it's sold in the toy section, and this one's of Nightmare Moon, aka Luna. It's like, you realize, wait a minute, that's not necessarily a toy, even though it's sold in the toy sections. That's when you knew, hey, something's going on here. There's something about this show, about this franchise, that they're not letting on. And it just snowballed from there. It just continued to snowball and grow from there and there and there, to the point that I ended up getting most of the seasons on DVD officially, seasons 1 to 7, a couple of compilation discs or DVDs that were sold as well. And even to the point that, as I mentioned before, I would DVR episodes on Saturday mornings every time they came on, newer episodes, and then wait till I had the opportunity to record them onto DVD later on in the week, which I would do. And I had fun with that. Yeah. And I just had somebody in the live chat saying the Return of Harmony is what introduced them to the show as well. But like I said, when you start seeing the impact that the adult fan base has on the show, to the point that Hasbro is collaborating with other people and other licensees or whatever to bring out merchandise, from adult clothing to to collectible figures, like I said, the Guardians of Harmony sets and the Funko Pops. That's really showing you how far the show has come, as a pop culture phenomenon, even to the point that this year, if I can bring it up right here, this was my first big major purchase of MLP. This is a Target exclusive. You can see it right there. It says Target exclusive. But I got this off Amazon. Somebody bought it and sold it on Amazon for, I think, a little cheaper than Target. And I ended up getting it. And this is all of the main 6 as Power Ponies. And the Power Ponies, even though that was a mixed episode, the reaction to that was mixed. Even though the reaction to that episode was, almost fell there. But even though the reaction to that episode was mixed, it was basically a love letter to comic books. And obviously Hasbro had to know what they were doing, or the creative staff, at least behind that episode, had to know what they were doing, because the Power Ponies have been parodied lots of times through Power Ranger-like intros. From regular Power Rangers, where you have one, I don't know who it is, but someone basically reworded the song a little bit to where instead of Go Go Power Rangers, now they've reworded it to says Go Go Power Ponies. But then the rest of the intros, but the rest of the other theme songs will remain the same. And one person that does it the best, I think it's called Blaze Winter, here on YouTube. They've done every Power Ranger intro with the Power Ponies as the central point of it for almost a couple of years now. But here's the other thing that you also know. So yeah, that shows you the impact it has. But then you also look at sets like the Wonderbolt set and the My Little Pony Magic of Every Pony set, all exclusive to Target. And you think to yourself, Hasbro doesn't really do it that much, doesn't really do something that much unless it's a big deal, unless the franchise they're doing it for has become a big deal. And in this case, My Little Pony became that big deal. But you also know it's a big deal, it's a big phenomenon when you have fans creating their own animations, either from Flash animation to 2D animation to animation that's identical to almost Don Bluth or reminiscing of that, to SFM/CGI animation, to creating their own fan projected, series, spin-off series like Fallout Equestria, a Star Trek inspired one. It's like that shows you how big the show has become, even to the point that the adult fans that got into it, have created their own animated OCs of themselves to utilize for reviews or collaborations on discussions, or in some cases projects like, let's say, TF2 analysis, stuff like that. Again, these are just prime examples, folks, of people, of the franchise becoming as big as it was. And I'm going to tell you, when the finale came on, the reaction that I've seen a lot of people have towards it is genuine. Is so genuine that it's hard to believe. And the music that goes along with it, the music that goes along with the show, really has evolved itself as well, to the point that when you get to the Magic of Friendship song, that's like shows you how far it's come. I mean, when you have songs like Akiran's Tale, Flawless, You're in My Head, like a catchy song, and Magic of Friendship, being those kind of songs that they are, but basically being on the level, in the day awry, if you will, being, performed the way they are, it shows you that it doesn't matter if where they're coming from is a 22-minute to 30-minute show, originally meant for young kids, that if done correctly, it could rival to quote Josh Scorcher, aka Firebrand, it could rival a Disney project. And that's the truth. It could rival a Disney project. And that's no lie. That is not a lie, in my opinion. But overall, though, folks, it's hard to believe that it's been 10 years since this began, and how much it's grown as a franchise with its characters and stuff, as well as how much it's grown when it comes to its fan base. Because again, if you would have told any of these fans that went on to become, as they call it, horse famous analysis and reviewers, that they were going to be fans of this show when it started, they wouldn't have believed you. But yet, here they are. Here they are. They become huge fans and kind of internet celebrities in their own right. And again, if you would have told them that back when the show began, they wouldn't have believed you. So, yeah, it's hard to believe. But yeah, it's hard to believe in 10 years all of this has happened. And, when I look at the show, it's the kind of show that when you look at television today, there's not many good shows on there that you could sit down and watch. But in my case, when it comes to Friendship is Magic, it's one of those shows. It really is. And it's one of those rare shows that's reached over 220-something episodes. So that's hard to believe. It's hard to believe that's around 220 plus episodes. Hard to believe that it's reached that accomplishment. But overall, I can't say any more than what I have. I mean, I know I've sounded like I rambled a little bit, got a little distracted because I was tagging, linking this live stream up on Twitter and Facebook. But yeah, it's again, it's hard to believe that the show, the franchise has been around for this long. I mean, even though animation-wise the show is over, the show itself, the continuity from the show itself continues to this day with season 10 in the IDW comic interpretation. Heck, the fandom the show is still so big to the point that we now finally got the crossover fans had actually been waiting for between Transformers and My Little Pony. So what more can you say? But anyway, though, guys, I'm going to wrap this up because, of course, my mom's coming home and I don't want any kind of interruption, if you will, doing a live stream. So thank you all for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, I know I sound like I rambled a little bit because maybe I got a little bit distracted. I was trying to think about what I was going to say. And I was also linking up this live stream through various social media. But yeah, it's hard to believe. It's been 10 years, and here's to hopefully another 10 down the line. And I can't say any more than thank you to the creative staff, to Lauren Faust, Nicole, Debut, Megan McCarthy, Haber, Miller, to the actresses involved here with the show, bringing the characters to life. I can't say any more than thank you for doing that. And thank you to the fellow reviewers out there like Lightning Bliss, Keyframe, Silver Quill, Fiora, Dr. Wolf, Firebrand. Thank you all for helping a fan like me get into the show and into the fandom. Even when I think it wouldn't have happened, because how that is from personal experience. That when somebody says, "Oh, you're going to be a fan of something," and you say, "Oh no, I won't be," and all of a sudden you are. So thank you for helping me get into the show and giving the reviews that you do and the analysis and discussions that you do. It's really appreciated. So in closing, guys, all I want to say is happy 10th anniversary to My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. And here's to another 10 down the line. And let's hope G5, whenever it happens, helps carry on the legacy that Friendship is Magic gave us for 10 years and continues to do so to this day. So till then, guys, God bless. Take care. Have a good night. And I am out. Peace out. Stay safe.